Hey YouTubers, 95 speed GTA. Now we're on round 2 with the brake lines in this 96 Chevy Astro van. I finished the front brakes, and as I was bleeding the brakes, as soon as it caught pressure, one of the back lines blew out. And here it is. Kind of look familiar? I did this on my 98 Caravan too. The rear brake line that runs under the gas tank ruptured, and there's remnants of brake fluid right there. Like I said, the owner of this car doesn't want to spend a lot of money on it. It's a piece of shit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to relocate the brake line. I'm not even going to drop the gas tank. No way. I dropped the gas tank on the red van because, you know, my intentions were to keep it and fix it up. So, but I'm definitely not doing that with this. So here's the procedure. Go to your local auto parts store. And here in the Northeast region, we have O'Reilly Auto Parts, Advanced Auto Parts, and AutoZone. I went to AutoZone for this, and I got the longest brake line, which is 5 feet from them. And it looks copper, right? It's actually copper nickel, and you don't need any kind of tools or anything like that. You could bend this with your hand. I'm still going to use a can to bend it with my hand because I don't know, I don't trust it, and you don't want to kink a line. So I got this. This is a 3/16 line, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it from the back of the rear end, which is right over there, up the front of the gas tank, which is right here. Guys, guess what? So using a compression fitting on brake lines is not suggested, and I repeat, it's not suggested. So please don't think that I'm telling you how to do a quick fix and it's going to be safe. This is not a safe fix, and compression fittings can very well last years. I've seen compression fittings last years, and I've never personally heard of one failing. It's just not recommended by the manufacturer who manufactures these compression fittings. It'll actually say right on there that they don't suggest you use it on brake lines. But alright, so here we go. We're going to replace this, and well, we'll see how it works out. Okay, so we disengaged the line that we're taking out, which is that one right here, away from the ABS module, and I'm following the lines up, because as you can see, those little white locking tab things that hold the line in, you got to take them out. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. Some people just reroute the brake lines in another way, but this is pretty easy on this Astro van, and I got one left, actually two left, and it's gonna pop right out. The way I'm gonna route this is I don't even have to take the gas tank out, but the way I'm gonna route it is the same way that the manufacturer did, and I'm putting copper nickel lines in, so it's not gonna rot out again, but it really doesn't matter. So the reason why I didn't compression fit this is because I can get away with not, well, actually I think I might have to flare it, but it's a bigger line, and it counts as two lines because there's one big line that goes back that stops both the wheels, so I'm not going to play around with a compression fitting. But I'm going to reroute the new line right here because this looks like the safest place. I really don't want to do it there because you got too many moving parts. You got the drive shaft and you got the suspension and everything, so it's not really a good idea. So I'm just going to mount it here again. So let's finish getting that line. Okay, check this out. We got the rear brake line out. Look at that. Completely flaked off, rotted, and disgusting. There was our hole right there. I don't know if you guys could see it, but this brake line was shot, and it came out very easily. But this is the rear brake line for your 96 Chevy Astro van. I cut it right there. But the line runs all the way to your ABS master cylinder or solenoid, whatever you want to call it. So here's the line, and we're going to start making replacement lines, and we're going to start from the back of the rear end all the way up to the ABS module. So in order to do that, we got our line, and I got to make a bend, and I'm going to show you how to make a bend with these. First of all, these are flex lines, and this is a copper zinc line. I could I could bend it right now with my hand, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to risk kinking it, because that store only had 3 left. So if you don't want to rent a tool, you don't have to. Get something like this. Get a socket, or get a aerosol paint can, or something to that effect. And what you do is, let's say you want to bend it right here, you put it in front of the can, you hold both sides, and you bend it. Now the reason for this is the can and the socket are 2 solid things, so it's not going to allow it to kink anywhere. And these lines are really really easy to bend, but like I said, you don't want any kinks, so don't play around. For anybody that wants to bend their own brake line and, you know, not use the tool, I'll show you. First things first, make sure you take your fitting and you bring each fitting, even if you're going to use it or not, to each end. So I'm going to use, this is where I wish I had a cameraman. So I'm going to use this fitting. So I got to make sure it's here, because I've bent lines before and left the fittings back there, and I had to throw out the line. But sometimes I get lucky and I could rebend it again. Put it on a flat surface. I can't do this and show you this at the same time, so basically I'm using my 11/16 socket. Really doesn't matter what socket you have, just as long as it's something really strong like this. Put it where you want to make your bend, and you grab both sides and you pull up, and you can have a nice U shape after you're done. So I'm going to make my bend for right up there. You see the rubber hose that goes up, and it goes right, there you go. It goes right there. Alright, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the line rightwards, so it's going to look like a little L, and it's going to travel this way. Then I'm going to bend it again towards the right, and it's going to run alongside the frame rail to the ABS sensor. Okay, there's my first bend. All I did was put the socket there, held it, and with my other hand pulled it up. And as you can see, no bends, no nothing. Well, I mean, there's a bend, but no kinks, that's what I meant to say. So, there's my first bend. Now I'm going to install it, and since this tubing is easy to work with, I'll be able to make all the bends underneath the car. Oh, hey guys, real quick, after you make this bend, get underneath the car and go from the point of the fitting all the way past the gas tank to the bend where the original line used to be. It measures about 10 and a half inches, because if you put it in with just the bend, it's going to go straight and hit the wheel, so you don't want that. So you just get under and measure. It's 10 and a half inches down, so your line is going to look like that. Alright, we got one line in. Let's see if I can show it to you. If you guys can see it. There's one line in, connected to there. And then the line ends, where are you? Right there. So I'm actually putting it in the same factory location, which is pretty good because I get to use the snap mounts that go into the line, and everything fits perfectly. So now I got a union where I'm going to connect another line and run it to the ABS module. I think I'm going to get away with just using 2 lines here, but there's something that I have to tell you guys. When it comes to the ABS module, you're going to need a flaring tool. This is why you're going to need a flaring tool. First of all, I'm going to reuse this. This is the connector to the ABS module. As you can see on the new line, it's not the same. It also wouldn't even fit. So this is where I'm going to need a flaring tool. This is a inverted flare fitting, and you could buy it. This is a quarter inch one for my project, but this is what's going to connect the 2 lines together. And I'm going to have to cut this end off, and I'm going to have to flare on that other fitting. I never flared before. Let's hope it goes well. Alright, well, the brake job is finished on the 96 Chevy Astro van. I just filled it up with brake fluid, and it's really clean. So pretty much when you empty your reservoir, watch out for the fan, guys. Ooh. When you empty out your reservoir, it's gonna look like this. It's not gonna be totally clean, you know, unless you really do a crazy job purging out the system. But you got to remember, even if you keep trying to clean and clean and clean and it keeps coming out black like this, it's not because you're not getting all the dirty fluid. It's because there are some rubber hoses on the car that are still original, and when the insides deteriorate, you get that black color. So that's a pretty clean mixture right there. So don't get discouraged if you see that. Make sure you put the cap on. Also, when I installed the lines, there was a lot of air in the lines, and this was empty. So what you do is you fill it up just like I did, and you pump the brake pedal until you start getting pressure. But when you're dealing with a line like that, well, when you're dealing with replacing multiple lines, you pump it a couple of times, but you always got to keep checking this reservoir, because if you make this reservoir go dry, it's going to dry out the piston inside, and you're letting air back into the system. So always keep an eye on this. Make sure you put this on the right way. Filthy disgusting. But she's on again. Doing good. Alright, let's start off with the passenger side front wheel. Here's what I did. This rubber hose is new. I replaced that. The caliper is new. I didn't do that. The owner of the car did it. So that hose is new, and that line going back up against the frame, this one right here, I made this line. I had to replace that, as you saw from the beginning of my video. I didn't make it perfect, so I can't get it over this latch, but it's not a big deal because there's another one right on the other side of the frame that latches onto it. So here's one line with a new rubber hose. Ooh, alright, we're under the car. Well, at least almost under the car. Make sure you're in an open area because this car is running. And right over there we have a new line, a new brake line, and that's a nickel copper line. It's wet because I was actually bleeding it from right there. You don't necessarily have to do that. You just bleed it from the points, which is from the wheel cylinders and the disc brakes. But when you're putting a whole new brake system in, it's good to, if you're working on an Astro van, it's good to crack the line loose right here and give it a couple of pumps so you can let the fluid get to the back of the car. I gave it about maybe 4 or 5 pumps and then it started leaking. So that's how I knew fluid was there. And once you do that, you tighten it up, and then you move on to the wheel cylinders and you evacuate all the air from the lines running from right here, which that metal line goes to a rubber line, which goes to a splitter, which I think this is called the proportion valve. Forgive me, sometimes I forget what things are. I forget the proper name for them. And it goes to a line to the wheel cylinder. So that line I was just telling you about runs from the back of the gas tank, and I looped it right alongside the gas tank, and I made it as factory as I could, but this line was actually tucked up on this frame right here. I could get it, but really it's pointless because there are clips over here, and I'm just going to suspend it from there. So the line you just saw from the back of the gas tank came to here. Oh, excuse me. Then connected right here to this union, which ran all the way to the ABS module. That was a real, well, it really wasn't a pain in the ass, but it was an interesting job. So pretty much with the exception of one line, which I should have replaced, but the owner didn't want it, everything is new. Anyway, YouTubers, this is 95-speed GTA, and that is how you redo brake lines, bend brake lines, and place brake lines on a 1996 Chevy Astro van. Now, this basic principle applies to virtually any brake job on a car. So it doesn't actually pertain to a 96 Chevy Astro. So I hope I helped you guys out there. If you have any questions, rate, comment, subscribe, send me an email, whatever. But YouTubers, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. 95 Speed GTA, over and out.